Hey, everybody, it's Michael Tucker with the Real Estate Success Strategies podcast. I'm so excited, like I am every week, because today we have another power player on with us. And if you're here streaming live with us on Facebook, welcome. I'm so pumped. Today we have Tim Bratz on with us. Tim, how's it going, man?
Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me. Excited to be here.
Anytime. Hey, listen, I've been following you for a while now. Listen to your podcast. Different people have been hosting with you, and guys, I'm very excited because today we don't get podcasts like this often. I feel like Tim is super genuine. This guy is authentic, and he is a power player as well. If you don't know who Tim is, I'll let him talk a little bit about himself in just a second. But just a quick overview. He's been able to go from flipping residential houses to now owning, now correct me if I'm wrong, over 4,000 apartment units and over $300 million in assets in your portfolio. Is that right?
That's it, man. 4,288 units as I sit here today with you.
Wow, and growing. So that's amazing. Right. And it's cool because my story, I feel like, relates to yours. I was listening to some podcasts, like I said, about your story and, just your story of, buying your first rental or your first investment property with, a credit card. That was me. So, I kind of relate on that level and I'm very interested in how you found some success in real estate, but then shifted a little bit to the network marketing side. I remember hearing a little bit about that and then you had to find your way again in real estate. But dude, let's give the audience about a little overview about who you are and what you do currently. I'll let you take that away.
Yeah, man. Well, again, thanks for having me. Excited to be here, and if I can share some knowledge, I'm happy to do that. So, dude, thanks for putting value out there for people. I'm a big believer that just information and wealth is it's limitless. There's no, you're gonna get more by helping people and teaching people and educating people on this stuff than it's ever gonna hurt you. So it's awesome what you're doing. So yeah, man. I mean, my background is I'm a kid from Cleveland, Ohio, born blue collar suburbs. My dad was a cop. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, had a teaching degree, and went to school, told to get good grades, get a good job, all that kind of stuff. And so went to college, and when I was going through college, 03 to 07, I realized I was very money motivated, right? And I think some people shy away from that, but I kind of lean into it. I wanted to make a bunch of money, right? I was a 20-year-old kid. I wanted all this stuff. And so, this is 2005. I was a sophomore in college. And I remember just the real estate market was going gangbusters. And all these people were making all this money in real estate. And, at the job fairs, these real estate developers and builders and stuff were coming in. And I was like, man, I want to do that. So, I started a painting company in the summertime, and I had an internship with a big home builder. And then when I graduated from college in 2007, my brother invited me out to live with him in New York City. So I moved out to New York, and I thought you got involved as a real estate investor by becoming a real estate agent. Got my real estate license, started brokering commercial real estate. So for some reason, I went with a commercial broker instead of a residential. And I just did leasing for retail spaces and offices. And took this little 400 square foot space. It was a little dumpy, listing, kind of bottom of the barrel type listing. And it took me 8 months to sign a lease on it, and got a food, a restaurant, to come in and rent 400 square feet for $10,000 a month.
Dang, man.
Yeah, man. I started doing the math on it. It was a 12-year lease term. It was 4% annual escalations. And I see the landlords making almost $2 million over the next 12 years for doing something once. And I'm like, dude, residual income, that's where I need to be, right? I'm on the wrong side of the coin. So I stopped brokering. I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, just for better quality of life kind of a thing in 2008. And I went through, the analysis paralysis that I think a lot of people go through. I got to learn everything before I do anything. And spent several months doing that. And then just realized, dude, you're going to learn how to swim by jumping in the water, not by reading about swimming in a book. And so I jumped in and just started making some offers on properties in early 2009, and ended up locking down the cheapest. This is after the market collapsed, right? So everybody's running away from real estate. All these REO bank-owned properties are popping up, and everybody's like, no chance, get away from real estate. Everybody's losing their entire net worth. And, I'm some naive kid showing up. I'm like, this house is cheap. How could it not make money? I can rent it for $500 each side, and I could buy it for 20 grand and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it makes sense. Why aren't other people buying this stuff? And so I just found this cheap house, didn't have any money. Nobody's lending me money. I've never done a deal before. I'm a punk 23-year-old kid, worst housing recession ever. And so I got MasterCard to give you the money. And I just wrote myself a balance transfer check and bought the house on a credit card, physically did all the work myself, painting, flooring, fixtures, and landscaping, held an open house, and got one of the neighbors to come in and buy it for 33 grand. I was into it for about $19,000. And so I netted about $14,000 after closing costs. And I was like hooked, right? So let's go do it again. And, built up a small portfolio of about 10 units, including my own house that I was house hacking. I had a couple of buddies living with me. And then a nine single family rentals. And that portfolio, I wasn't rich, but I was financially free. I had more residual income coming in than I had monthly expenses. And it covered all my operating expenses, all my debt service, and then all my personal expenses, and left me with a few $100 a month of just kind of going out money. And so again, I wasn't rich, but I was essentially financially free at the age of 25. And I was like, dude, I got this figured out, man. So then I start looking for all these other shiny objects that I can go chase. I think I'm some entrepreneurial wizard. I buy a Mercedes and I join the private club, and I'm blowing money, out at restaurants and stuff. And so somebody invites me out to this home meeting. I go out to this home meeting. It was a network marketing company. And it actually aligned really well with real estate. It had to do with like home services. So it was like TV and internet and electricity, natural gas, like that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, I own a bunch of rental property. I know a bunch of people in real estate. I could probably make a bunch of residual income on other people's bills by joining this company. And so I joined, and really, like, I love the personal development side of things. I really met amazing entrepreneurs in town, and made a couple bucks pretty quickly, and just kind of got sold out. Like, I drank the juice on this thing, and started just driving all over. I ended up selling my real estate, 9 of my properties.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I only kept my my primary residence. And so I sold those properties, and I was like,
did you sell those for a profit?
Yeah, I actually seller financed them. I did like a wraparound mortgage because they would just, again, nobody was getting financing. Nobody could raise private money. And so I did like I left my financing in place, and I did like, it's what's called an installment contract for deed. It's kind of like a car loan, right? Or you don't actually get the title. The buyer doesn't get the title until they pay you off in full. So I had them in my name still, but I didn't have any responsibility, liability, or, I mean, technically, I guess I had a little bit of liability, but they were managing it and all that stuff. And I couldn't make any more money other than what the purchase price was that they bought it from me. So anyways, I sold the property for 2 years. I'm just like driving all over God's green earth, doing these friggin' home meetings and talking to people, pitching them on network marketing. And eventually I realized that like all the money's made by recruiting, and none of it was made in residuals on these services. And so, I was like in the top 1% of performers in this entire company. I was making no money, like 25 grand, 30 grand a year. No, it was like 25 grand a year. And for 2.5 years, I did that, and found myself in August of 2012. So I'm 27 years old at that time, just like completely broke, right? Like I have 25 grand in credit card debt. I have $80 in my bank account. I'm literally, dude, I was like selling my side tables on Craigslist to try to have.
Well, let's tell people, from what I've heard in the past, like some of the things you were doing just to keep money in your pocket. Like I remember in one podcast I was listening to, you said you would go to these network marketing events and you were sleeping in your car. Is that right? Or your truck or something like that?
Yeah.
And you'd use the hotel bathrooms and stuff. Man, that's crazy how, you had this dream and you were going after it. A lot of people would have just quit, but you kept going, man. And, maybe that didn't work out, but, look where you're at today.
Yeah. I think it, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I wish I would have never done that. Not really, dude. I learned how to public speak from being in that. I own over 2,500 apartments with people that I met in that group. Dude, people who got in and jumped out like immediately. They're like, I'm not doing this. And I'm not saying anything bad about like network marketing. Just that company was not a good fit. If you like going out and just recruiting, you can go and make good money in that company. there's not a lot of margin in the services that they were selling though, so you couldn't really make a true residual on it. But I think network marketing is amazing from like a personal development standpoint. The people that you meet are very entrepreneurial, and I think it's a good stepping stone to really understand the basics of entrepreneurship. And so I made amazing contacts. My best friends actually came from that network marketing company. But eventually I found myself, dude, like, I'm traveling to cities multiple, 5-6 hours away, and I didn't have enough money to pay for a hotel room. So I just slept in the backseat of my car, and I'd sneak in at like 5 o'clock in the morning into the hotel lobby, and I'd shave and get myself cleaned up before everybody would come in for like the morning meeting. And then I do the meeting, and then I drive back to Charleston where I was living at the time. So, going through all this, and I'm sitting there on my bed in August of 2012, just like crying, right? I'm not a crier, but I was crying because I'm like, I had this figured out 2 years ago. What the hell happened? What went wrong? And I had to borrow money to make the minimum payment on my credit card. I had to borrow money to make the mortgage payment on my house. And I was like, I'm going back to real estate, right? Real estate made sense for me. Real estate worked. And what saved me from that position was I sold my house in Charleston. Real estate saved my ass again. Sold my house in Charleston, moved back to Cleveland, Ohio in 2012. And a couple guys that were in that network marketing company hit me up. They're like, dude, we got into this business so that way we would have money to buy real estate. How about you do the work and we put up the money, and we'll collaborate and we'll split the equity up. So partnered up with those guys at the end of 2012, and they put up a few $100,000. I was buying cheap single family flips, nicer single family flips, like kind of that 250 range.
Right.
Buying single family houses in Cleveland, dude. Again, this is bottom of the market. So I could buy a single family house. It was in the hood, but I bought a single family house that was rented for $600 a month, and I bought it for $6,500.
Dang, man.
I bought a triplex 3 doors down from that, and it was totally vacant, but I bought it for $14,000. I put $5,000 into it, and this is slumlord days of Tim Bratz, right? And just put lipstick on the pig, made it occupiable, and got it fully rented out. Dude, the thing was making, there was around $2,000 a month in rents coming in from this house I was into for $20,000. Like the gross income from some of these houses was more than what I was buying it for. So anyways, I got into that, and I realized I liked buying rental properties because if I didn't flip it, I didn't have to worry about it because I still had this great cash flow coming in. And if I did flip it, I could make just as much margin as I did on like these retail flips, like the HGTV stuff. So I ended up just focusing on the rentals, and then I fell into like this 8-unit apartment building. Bought this 8-unit, and I just love the scale that it allowed me to go to one location instead of 8 locations, talk to one seller instead of 8 sellers, look at one roof instead of 8 roofs, get financing on one deal instead of 8 deals. And it just collect rent, meet contractors, like all those different kinds of things at one location versus 8. And so the scale made a lot of sense to me. And after that first year of that partnership, I ended up, just selling everything else and just focusing on the apartments. That partnership was cool until kind of life happened, and I became more valuable, and the guys with the money became less valuable because more and more people, they wanted to bring less money to the deal, but they wanted more equity, and there was a lot of moving parts. And that partnership ended up folding, and we ended up liquidating everything in 2015 and 2016. So there I am, pressing the reset button again, right? And I'm like, damn it, I just worked my ass off for the past 3 years on this business, and I got to do it all over again, start all over again. But it was really an awesome, just kind of set up for something better. And all of a sudden, these people came out of the woodwork saying, "Hey, Tim, I want to do deals with you, but you had that exclusive partnership." And I started raising private money. I joined a master.
How did they know that you started? You kind of started fresh. Was that something that you went out there and was telling people about, or they just heard from around?
Hey, I'm liquidating some stuff, and all of a sudden, I was reaching out to the people I had in my network because I'm like, "Hey, I'm selling these properties." They're like, "Why? Why are you selling it?" Well, partnership kind of went south. We're just going in our different directions. Like, well, what else you got going on? Blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up getting into wholesaling. I ended up getting into like a turnkey type of a business because I needed to figure out a way to like generate some cash while we were selling this portfolio. So I flipped over 100 houses actually in 2015. 2016, built up a big management company in Cleveland. And when I say I built it up, like that sounds like it was awesome from the start. No, like I built it. It sucked. I fired everybody after like 6 months. I hired all new people. I was such a shitty manager. I had to fire everybody again 3 months later. So I kept on going through these phases of the management was really, really tough. And we had a lot of ideas that were good theoretically, but weren't very practical in application. So, it just went through the learning curves, man, but got really good at management. And then as I was liquidating my portfolio, I started buying new stuff on my own, and was able to kind of get another few hundred units under my belt by 2017. And in 2017, I remember just sitting back on vacation, dude, and being like, looking at my net worth, looking at my life, and looking at where I was spending my time. I just had my second kid, and I'm like, dude, 90% of my net worth comes from my apartments. It's only 10% of the time that I'm actually putting it in my days.
Right.
Like, what would happen if I just pivoted all my resources to just buying apartment buildings? And again, I had a few hundred units, 400 units or something like that at the time. And I just that was I think it was in August of 2017. And I just drew a line in the sand, came back, we pivoted hard. We stopped flipping single family turnkey houses. I put the management company up for sale, and we just went to work on building up our own portfolio. And so 2018, I picked up about 1,000 doors. 2019, I bought 2,000 doors. And in 2020, despite COVID, we still bought another 1,000 units. So I'm up to 4,300 units. We flipped a lot of stuff. We wholesaled a lot of apartment buildings and stuff too during that time frame. So we transacted a lot more, but in my current portfolio, I got right around 4,300 doors. And
how many markets are you in currently?
I think 11 or 12 different states.
Okay, so you're not just focusing. That's very interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, I just focus on 2-3 markets. But do you think it's because of your model that you're able to do that many states, or is it just something else we aren't talking about?
If I was starting out, I'd go deep in like one or two markets. The way that I've kind of built my business over the past few years has been a lot through social media. Like we got connected on social media, and I just started talking about doing deals. I talked about how I structured this deal and what the numbers look like on that deal. And I do a Facebook Live as I'm walking around one of the properties and talking about what we're doing. Just trying to help other people and expedite that process. And what naturally happened, man, as I'm sure it happens to you, is like people reach out and they're like, dude, can I buy deals from you? Can I sell deals to you? Can I invest with you? Can we partner? Can we joint venture? Or do you coach? Do you consult? Because there's stuff that we can do together. And so that turned into a little bit of like an education business. So I have something called Commercial Empire, where I teach people how to kind of scale up in apartments. And that has drawn a lot of active operators who are great in the single family game, who are trying to level up into more buy and holds, and they bring deals, right? And so they bring deals, and I can bring money, I can bring the financing, I can sponsor the loans and mentor and coach on that. And they find the deal, they operate the deal, they handle the boots on the ground side of things.
Do they get part of equity usually?
I'm sorry?
Do they get part of the equity usually?
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're able to get into deals that they couldn't have gotten into. I'm able to get into deals that I wouldn't have gotten into. And again, rising tide floats all boats kind of a thing. And I think that's the main reason of why I'm in Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana and Alabama. Like I've never even been to Louisiana. I don't even know, 400 units there, So I got stuff in Illinois. I've never visited Springfield, Illinois, and I own 265 units in Springfield, And then we also have stuff in Cleveland, and then I have a majority of my portfolios in South Carolina and Georgia, though.
Right. So how'd you go, what was the point at which you felt like, all right, you said you were sitting on, vacation here and you're like, we're going to pour all this resources into this business. Was it exponential growth right from there, or was there a lot of bumps along the way? I'm sure there was, but if so, what were those bumps?
Well, I will say this though, man, when you draw a line in the sand and you make a declaration to the universe responds. And when I came back and I was like, dude, we're not buying any more single family houses. I told my acquisitions guy, I said, only look for apartments. Like what you focus on expands. Like I just bought a Wrangler. Like I used to be a car guy, before all that stuff. And I used to own a Mercedes, and I don't know if I just am I still have a Mercedes for my wife, but for me, I'm just more of a Wrangler guy. Right. So I just got a brand new Wrangler, and it's like any new car that you get, when you're driving around, all of a sudden that's the only car that you see on the road, right? You see them over and over and over again. And it's what you focus on expands. And so that's kind of what happened when we pivoted over to multifamily. My acquisitions guy, he would look at single family, look at some apartments, but when he just threw away all the single family and he just kept on asking people to wholesale him and send him, and brokers and everybody else, all the different connections and resources and vendors that we have, he just kept on asking over and over and over again for apartments. Guess what? Apartments showed up. And so he was able to then sift through those, cherry pick the ones that we wanted to hold. We bought those and kept those. Other ones were not good fits for us necessarily because of maybe the area or how much work it needed. So maybe we'd wholesale those off, or we'd flip those with the intent of not holding those long term. And it just kind of allowed us to focus on that. And there weren't 100-unit deals that fell in our lap immediately, but eventually we picked up a 20-unit. Then we picked up another 24-unit. Then we flipped an 18-unit. Then all of a sudden a 48-unit came across our desk. Then all of a sudden a portfolio 74 doors came across. And then all of a sudden it just like kept on growing. And then a student brought a 200-unit. And then it just like, dude, it just snowballed, And I think a lot of people want to get rich quick in apartments, or real estate altogether. But like, dude, you got to have a 3-year vision minimum, right? Like the first year is just planting the seeds and letting people know what you got going on. The second year, you're starting to build up a little bit of momentum, trying to figure this thing out a little bit. And then really the third year is when you're taking down bigger deals. You built up the balance sheet, you built up your net worth, you built up your liquidity and your private money partners and your broker contacts and your off-market deal flow. And like all that stuff really starts hitting stride in year 3, year 4, year 5. So I know everybody wants to get rich quick because we live in this instant success society, but dude, it's not get rich quick. It's build real wealth over a season of your life. And if you think 5 years is a long time to create legacy wealth that to change your family's financial tree forever, dude, I think it's a drop in the bucket. You know what's really hard? Not that. What's really hard is working for somebody else for 40 years in order to try to retire on less money than you couldn't already live off of, right? Like that's hard. Not working your ass off for 5 years in the real estate world and collecting up a portfolio.
No, man, that's so true. And I had a question for you as you were talking about this. You talked about being money driven at the beginning, right? Whenever you first started out, has that been still a factor, or what have you been driven by? I know this is a little deep, but what have you been driven by the past, few years? Has you been growing in this space? Has it been driven by money, or is there some kind of other driving factor behind what you do?
Yeah, I think money is a big driving factor when you don't have any, especially when you're trying to figure out how to put a roof over your head or clothes on your back or move to a safe neighborhood or put food on the table for your family. I'm a big student of personal development and success and personal finance and happiness. And I remember watching a documentary on happiness once, and it's like, listen, once your basic needs are met, meaning food, shelter, clothing, once those basic needs are met, most households, depending on the city that you live in, is probably $50,000 to $75,000 a year. Gets you in a pretty decent neighborhood, gets you food on the table, right? You're not eating steak every night, but you can have a good, safe state, at least basic needs are met. They said it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year or $50 million a year, the happiness factor does not change at all. That was pretty fascinating to me. It would kind of like hit me as I was growing my portfolio. I read that in 2014, or I watched that documentary about 2014. So it was right as I'm like starting to make some money. 2014 is the first year I ever made 6 figures. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not about the money, then what is it about? And so, listen, dude, I love nice vacations, right? I love flying first class. I love, I have a beach house. I'm coming to you from my beach house in Charleston, South Carolina right now, and looking at buying a mountain house and all sorts of different. So I like that stuff, but the money, I get more fulfillment by watching my net worth increase than by buying materialistic things. If I buy material things, it's houses, right? It's like more vacation homes and things like that. Right. It's not really like, I like watches, but it's hard for me to spend more than a few grand on a watch. I like cars, but I'm a shitty driver, right? I'd rather bang up the tires on my Wrangler than tires on a Bentley, or an Aston Martin. And so like, I don't want to do that. And I would be super pissed if I hit a curb in an Aston Martin and all of a sudden I got a $15,000, bill in order to fix the side of it. So anyways, I know me, and I understand like what fulfills me. Once I got past the money thing and I knew that everything was good there, really, dude, as tacky as it sounds, I just love helping other people. Like my mom was big into teaching and big into the education system. My dad ran the academy, which taught a whole bunch of police officers coming into the city of Cleveland for, I don't know, a decade. And so like, I come from kind of like an educator type family. And that's always been like a big thing that I just like doing. I love teaching. I love coaching. I love mentoring. I like helping people see themselves as more than how they can see themselves without me being there, and letting them know there's more to life than whatever they're went through right then and there. So like, that's a big driving factor, helping other people and really just kind of like impact, I have, that was like a big thing once I had kids. And when I had kids and I was big in personal development, I'm like, man, why aren't there personal development books for kids? And so,
let's jump into that, man. Cause actually I was going to give you a plug at the very end, but you're doing some really cool stuff for, you got some children's books out, children's programs coming out. Tell us a little bit. What is it?
Little Legacy Library.
Yeah. So give us a rundown about what that is.
So, I'm on a flight back in 2017, from a real estate conference, and I'm reading The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And I'm like, damn it, I was 31 years old, I think, at the time. And I had a 2-year-old daughter at home. I'm like, God, these principles are so good. I'm getting this at 31, right? Like I've been in personal development since my early 20s, but I was like, I'm learning something new. I was like, and for us, a lot of times, for most people, dude, they're educated, they're programmed a certain way as they grow, and then they have to reprogram themselves in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s to think a different way, to think, not go to a 9-to-5 job, but to be an entrepreneur and think outside the box and take command of your own life. And I'm like, dude, what if you didn't have to reprogram? What if you just were programmed the right way from the beginning? That's why there's dynasties out there. That's why there's legacies of families that have just, dude, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger with each generation, is because they don't pass down the estate. Maybe that helps, but really they pass down the mindset of how to do this stuff. And that's true legacy. And I remember looking it up, getting off that flight and looking up personal development books for kids and toddlers, specifically for my 2-year-old daughter. And there wasn't anything out there. There was stuff on how to be nice to people and live by the golden rule and how to work hard, maybe a couple money management type books, but nothing on setting goals, nothing on sacrificing things you care about for things you care more about, right? Nothing about what you can conceive and believe you can achieve, or how to win friends and influence people, or, the richest man in Babylon, or Magic of Thinking Big, or Power of Positive Thinking, or anything like that. And so I got off that and I was like, that's it. This is my idea, right? Like, this is going to be the $100 million idea. I'm going to go and launch some kids books, personal development books for kids. And I sat on it for like a year and a half. And I didn't do anything. And it wasn't until end of 2018, I was on a vacation again with some family friends, and one of my best female friends from high school and my wife kind of raised their hand and said, hey, we'll write the books if you're too busy building your business, Tim. And so I brought them on as partners. They've been authoring the books, and we've come out with 2 books so far. We have another 2 that are coming out in the next few months here. And so they're based off of the classic personal development, the classics. And so the first one's off of Think and Grow Rich. It's called Think Big and Go to Baseball Camp. And then there's How to Win Friends and Influence People. We wrote How to Win Class President and Influence Peers. And the next one, off of Richest Man in Babylon, is called The Richest Kid in the Neighborhood. And we got a couple other ones that are in the pipeline too. So, dude, we're super proud of them. They're awesome books. They're like really, really powerful. I have adult friends of mine who are like reading them. They're like, dude, don't tell anybody, but I got a lot out of this. Like, that was really good, And dude, I get messages from my entrepreneur friends, like showing their kids setting their goals and starting new businesses, essentially, with the impetus from this book. And it's really, really cool, really impactful. And that's kind of like the impact piece that I'm working on now. So we're still building up the real estate
information about this stuff.
Yeah, littlelegacylibrary.com.
Right. Awesome. Check it out. I'm going to put this in the comments.
Littlelegacylibrary.com.
You guys can go check that out, because man, this is That's powerful, man. And I love it. You talked about true legacy is leaving a mindset behind for those you love, passing that mindset down. And dude, like that's a whole another conversation in itself right
For
there.
sure. For sure. And dude, when you become a parent, you like, it's a lot less about you, right? Now it's more about how do you set your kids up, but also not spoil them and not, nobody wants their kid to be like the rich kid asshole at school, So how do you make sure they're genuinely good people and still give them the right mindset to go out and do this stuff on their own? Like, dude, I know that I've succeeded and made it. If my kids come to me and they're like, Dad, I don't want any of your money. I don't want any of your property. You know why? Because I know how to do it myself. Like, it just gave me the chills, right? Because I know that I've done my job of not giving them a fish, but teaching them how to fish.
That's awesome, man. Love it. Well, you guys go check out littlelegacylibrary.com if you have kids. Great resource for you guys to pass on that legacy mindset. Well, Tim, let's talk a little bit about, as we end this show out, I know you're a pretty busy guy, but let's talk about your goals, man, because right now you're sitting at 42 something odd number units, right? 4,200 units. And then you got $300 million worth of assets or more are growing. What's the goal for you guys? Are you going to try to hit that billion mark, or what's that look like?
Yeah, man. So right now we're in kind of a process of taking a step back. We're selling some of the properties, like our smaller properties and more like the C-class type properties that we have in our portfolio. So we're going to sell about a third of my portfolio is kind of what I'm thinking, and kind of sell those, pay the investors amazing returns. We're going to put a bunch of money in our own pockets. And then the next step is just going big, right? I'm going to have this essentially like a deck of properties and deals that we did, dozens of properties over and over and over again, all the successes, all the returns, made money on all of them, bought them all pre-COVID at the peak, sold them post-COVID, made a ton of money. And on all that, it's going to allow us to go and raise hundreds of millions of dollars from, private equity and family offices and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the idea. And I'm going to put my own fund together as well. And so that's going to allow us to go and buy $1 billion of property. So although I might sell maybe 1,500, maybe even 2,000 doors this year, our goal is to buy 4,000 doors. So I think we could be somewhere in the ballpark of 6,000 doors by the end of the year. And then if I buy another 4,000 next year, that'll put me right around the $1 billion portfolio value. And that's kind of like my short-term goal, right? Like I used to have long-term goals, 10, 20, 30 years out. And I just found that things change so quickly and so rapidly that it doesn't even make sense to spend time on that. So I set like 36-month goals. And as I get closer and closer, and goals are like living things, right? They're change every single day, every month, based on opportunities or things that you realize about life that you just, hey, I don't like doing that anymore. I'm not going to do that. That's not really a goal. It's not really important to me. Or you have kids, or you move, or you check some boxes, and you realize it's not about the stuff, So yeah, I mean, $1 billion portfolio is really just kind of like an ego thing, trying to get there. I know that
I'll keep going.
Yeah. And I know that I can't get there unless I help other people get there too. So like the way my model is built, it's like I helped a lot of people make a lot of money if I'm able to build $1 billion portfolio.
So what's your team look like, man? I'm very interested. You have to have a pretty complex team. And I wanted to kind of ask this on the side of finding off market, because a lot of people, they talk about you have to be with the brokers, right? The right brokers will bring you the right deals. I'm sure you use brokers and things like that, but if I'm not mistaken, you found a lot of your deals off market. So what's your team look like to be bringing in this many apartment deals?
Yeah. Good question. I don't have that big of a team. There's, again, the way that I've kind of like structured the deal flow is just because I get active on social media, so, and anybody can do this. Anybody could, have a podcast, open a meetup group locally, start their own, local mastermind, share on different social media platforms, and just, you'll naturally get deal flow that comes from it. So that has turned into like an education platform. And I have a couple of videographers and essentially a marketing director for the education side, and a customer service kind of person as well, customer service manager. So I have like 4 people who work on the education side. And then my investment team is me. I have a COO, Matt Carlin. He's my chief operating officer. He operates everything. Everybody reports to him on the operational side. I have a chief investment officer who Used to be my attorney. I brought him in-house a little over 2 years ago, and now he helps raise all the capital. I have a acquisitions director. He reviews every single deal. I have a project management director of project management who oversees contractors and all that. I have a director of property management who oversees all of our in-house property management stuff. And I have kind of like an asset manager who's kind of a liaison in between our boots on the ground local partners and my COO of my company. So I don't know what that is, like another 6-7 people. And so we have a team of about like 10 in our core team. And then obviously there's a ton of brokers and wholesalers and agents and vendors sending deals to my acquisitions guy. There's a lot of on-site property managers, leasing agents, maintenance staff that report to the project manager and property manager. There's third-party management companies. There's GCs and subcontractors and a lot of other people who are not employees that we work with. Obviously we got bookkeepers and all that kind of stuff as well. But it started with one, right? Like it sounds complex, but it started with one. I hired an assistant first, and then my assistant actually became my asset manager. And then I had an intern who came on and interned with me between his junior and senior year of college. And then he stayed on and became my director of acquisitions. And then I hired another assistant and she became our marketing director. And so it's just kind of like, it's kind of parlayed into you hire one at a time as you continue to grow. I remember sitting back and seeing people with these big teams, like, how the hell do you do that? Well, dude, it's, you eat an elephant by one bite at a time, or whatever the hell that saying is. So that's what we ended up doing, man. I just ended up hiring a person and hiring another person. And I overhired and had to fire a bunch of people. And it was like, you realize that your biggest expense is typically overhead, and your biggest overhead expense is typically staff. And so if you're not managing them properly, if they're not performing, if they're not generating revenue, then you got to make some decisions on that. And that's what I wasn't good at doing. All fell on my lap, and I had to let a lot of people go. And it's because I'm the one who screwed that up. But now we're good. Now we know how to measure performance. Now we know how to train people properly. Now we have a human resources consultant that comes in and meets with our team all throughout the year. And so it's and then each property, like I said, is kind of its own little silo. So if I buy 123 Main Street, we have an on-site manager, we have an on-site leasing agent, we might have 2 maintenance persons. And so each of it is run kind of like as its own. I mean, there's probably 150 to 170 employees that we have total, but maybe more, 200 across all of our properties. But I don't see it like that. I see like the core team, and then I have each property has its own staff.
Right. Love it, man. And so as we end this out, let's say there's people that, we'll go into where they can find you. But first, they're like, well, I want to get started in this commercial space, this multifamily space. How do I go about finding those deals, right? Maybe I have some friends, or some connections that have some money. But as you know, just as much as I do right now, we're in a very hot market. Everybody wants multifamily deals, right? Everybody's looking. So how do they go out there and find their first deal, even in a hot market?
Yeah, man. I think the same ways that you find deals on the single family side, you can do that on the multifamily side. You can do direct mail, you can do outbound calls, you can do text message blasts, you can do voicemail drops, you can do driving for dollars, you can go knock on doors, you can dial for dollars. Instead of calling for sale by owners, call for rent by owners and talk to the landlord and say, hey, man, I'm not interested in renting your apartment. I want to buy the whole thing. Do you have any interest in selling? One of the things you're going to see over the course of the next 12 months or so is people who have operations dialed in are in good shape, right? Like they don't need to sell, or if you're going to buy that stuff, you're going to buy it for a premium. There's a lot of operators out there who are not very good at operating, and they're having a hell of a time collecting rents with all the COVID rent restrictions and eviction moratoriums and stuff that are going on right now. And I think they're going to be hurting pretty bad over the course of the next 6-12 months. And so I think you're going to see some opportunities there. And I would be looking for things that have transacted in the past couple of years to newer operators who are trying to be the next guru and aren't very good. Like, dude, a lot of people think, oh, all I got to do is go find the deal and raise the money for it. And I own a bunch of apartment buildings. Dude, that's where the work begins. Right? The work begins once you close. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't end there.
Yeah.
Now you got to keep the property. Now you got to operate it. Now you got to renovate it. Now you got to lease it up. Now you got to make sure the tenants don't leave and, create some sort of ban against you of not wanting to pay rent or anything. Like, dude, there's a lot of moving parts on the operational side that people just totally sweep under the rug because it's not the sexy stuff.
No, I agree. I had actually one of my friends, Mike, he was on here talking about asset management. You know, was talking about like one of his jobs at the company he's at is just making sure those assets are performing like they should. And that's a lot of areas that people don't talk about. So I love it, man. Thanks for pouring out this value, dude. I know we've been going for a little while now, but you just coming on here, sharing your heart, sharing how you got into the commercial space is going to help so many. Where can people find you at? Are you on social media? What's that look like?
Yeah, man. Facebook, Tim Bratz. Instagram at Tim Bratz, TikTok at Tim Bratz. I just got a TikTok account, right? So like I'm working on that now. LinkedIn. I mean, I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram though. So hit me up on there. I'm always trying to put out value. I'm always doing Facebook Lives. I'm always putting some posts out and trying to help people out with their real estate, with their business, with their lives, and everything else that comes in between. So if you got anything, you guys want to chat, hit me up. I answer all my own messages and stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, man, really appreciate having me, bud. Thank you.
Anytime, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, guys. If you liked what Tim was talking about, if you liked his content, listen, go out and follow him. Just follow his journey. Like he said, he documents almost everything he does in his business. So go on there and you can keep up. And one of the ways I found out that you can find the fastest growth is by staying plugged into people like Tim, being plugged in and, using their journey as your motivation, right? And so a lot of times people compare their journeys to other people. I'm not saying compare them, but use it as motivation. Go out there and do what you dream of doing, especially if it's in the commercial space. Be following Tim. Guys, and like always, if you like today's show, give our podcast subscribe or give it a comment below, review it. Let us know how you liked it so we can go on to continue making more episodes for you. We do these every Tuesday. We stream them on Mondays and then release them on Tuesday for you all. So another announcement real quick, we're going to be doing a simplified investing real estate giveaway course. We're going to have this whole course of like 8+ hours of how you can get into real estate investing. We're going to be giving that away very soon. Just stay tuned for details on that. But again, thanks, Tim, for coming on. We'll close this out. God bless you, brother. And I can't wait to see you hit that $1 billion mark.
Appreciate it, Michael. Take care, buddy. Thank you.